David paced his small living room, glancing at the clock every few seconds. The colony's spaceport had sent word that the transport ship carrying his mail-order bride would land today. He had been nervous for weeks, imagining what she would be like. He had chosen her from a catalog of alien profiles based on intelligence, appearance, and compatibility. Lyra, as her name appeared in the documents, was from a distant planet known for its warrior caste. That fact had seemed exciting at first, but he hadn't expected what awaited him. When the ship finally landed with a soft rumble that shook the walls, David ran to the docking bay. The doors hissed open, and a small hover platform emerged carrying a single passenger. David's breath caught in his throat. The figure stepping off the platform was Lyra, but she looked nothing like the polished images he had seen in the catalog. Her clothing was torn and scorched in places, and bruises marked her arms, legs, and face. Her once lustrous hair was matted, and her posture was guarded, tense, as if she expected an attack at any moment. "Lyra," David said softly, stepping forward. He wanted to appear calm, but his hands trembled. She looked at him briefly, her eyes wary, intelligent, and piercing, before lowering her gaze. David gently offered his hand. She hesitated, but finally took it. He guided her toward his vehicle, keeping his tone soft. "I'll take care of you. You're safe here." Inside his modest home, David began cleaning her wounds and applying medical ointments. Lyra flinched at every touch, and he noticed she had not just bruises but faint burn marks in some areas. He wondered silently what had happened to her. "Why did you come like this?" he asked carefully. Lyra looked at him, her eyes sharp and calculating. She said nothing at first. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she finally whispered, "I had to escape." David froze. "Escape from what?" She shook her head. "Not now, it's dangerous, you should not know yet." Her words made David more anxious. There was something more behind her injuries, something she was hiding. Still, he did not press. Instead, he focused on helping her recover, bringing warm water, clean clothes, and nutrient paste from his storage. She accepted everything silently, her eyes constantly observing him, as if measuring him. Over the next few days, Lyra began to regain some strength. She moved more freely, but her body still carried the signs of recent abuse. David noticed her agility, even in her weakened state. When he mentioned the colony's safety, she responded with subtle hints of military training. She could move swiftly, read situations quickly, and handle small tools with precision far beyond ordinary aliens or humans. One evening, as the colony settled into quiet, a small alert blinked on David's device. A sensor had detected unusual movement near the outskirts. He frowned. Lyra stiffened. "They found you," he said softly. She did not answer immediately. Instead, her eyes narrowed, scanning the distant shadows outside. David could see a mixture of fear and determination. "They will not stop until I am returned. Or dead," she said finally. David felt a surge of protectiveness he had never known. "Then I'll stop them," he said firmly. The first attack came at night. Shadows moved across the edge of his property. Strange drones with energy pulses attacked without warning. David grabbed a simple blaster from his storage, a relic from the colony's security team, and fired. He had never handled combat equipment before, but instinct took over. He ducked, rolled, and aimed carefully. Bullets and pulses ricocheted around, setting small fires in the terrain. Lyra moved beside him, agile and deadly. She struck with precision, her movements fluid and controlled. David watched, amazed, as she neutralized a drone with a single kick and precise strike. She was a trained warrior, far beyond what he had imagined. When the attackers withdrew, David helped her inside, breathing heavily. "Why didn't anyone tell me you were like this?" he asked, awed and slightly fearful. Lyra looked at him, her eyes softer than before. "I did not expect to trust anyone," she said. "But you did not run. Most humans would have fled." David felt a strange pride. "I will protect you, no matter what." Over the following days, Lyra slowly opened up. She revealed bits of her past, training in her home world, missions she had been sent on, and the enemies who pursued her. She spoke carefully, never giving full details, always testing David's reactions. David listened, learning quickly. He asked questions, offered ideas, and even suggested defenses using the colony's limited resources. Lyra began to respect his cleverness and adaptability. One day, as they worked together to reinforce his home with makeshift barriers, Lyra touched his shoulder lightly. "You are different," she said quietly. "Most humans are predictable. You are not." David smiled faintly, though he did not understand fully what she meant. He had only been trying to help, to survive alongside her. But Lyra's words stayed with him. The bond between them grew as they faced small skirmishes with scouts from her pursuers. Each time, David's human ingenuity surprised Lyra. He rigged traps, created distractions, and even managed to disable a drone by improvising from scrap metal and wiring. She began to see that humans, underestimated by many alien races, could be incredibly resourceful. One night, after a particularly intense encounter, they sat in the dim light of his home. Lyra tended to minor wounds on David's arm. "I should not have come alone," she admitted quietly. "But I had no choice." David took her hand gently. "You are here now. We will face whatever comes together." For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to relax, trusting him in a way she had not trusted anyone in years. The fear in her eyes was replaced with cautious hope. However, the colony was not safe. Reports of unidentified ships approaching the system arrived the next morning. David and Lyra realized their time was limited. They needed to move, to find safer ground, and to prepare for a larger conflict. The war that had followed Lyra across galaxies was now touching David's world, and he knew he would have to rise to challenges he never imagined. As they prepared to leave, David looked at Lyra, determination etched on his face. "Whatever happens, we survive. Together." Lyra nodded, her expression a mix of gratitude and admiration. "Together," she repeated. With their small vehicle packed and weapons at hand, they departed the colony, leaving behind the quiet life David had once known. Ahead lay danger, secrets, and battles that neither could predict. But one thing was clear. In the vast galaxy, humans could not be underestimated, and a human and an alien, bound by circumstance and trust, could change the course of war. David and Lyra traveled through the outer reaches of the colony, keeping to hidden paths and narrow asteroid fields. The small vehicle rattled over uneven terrain, but both were alert, eyes scanning for threats. Lyra's earlier injuries had healed mostly, though her movements carried a careful precision that reminded David of her training. He had learned a lot in the past few days, adapting to unexpected dangers, but every new challenge tested him further. They stopped at a cliffside overlook to rest, the twin suns setting in the distance. David handed Lyra some nutrient paste and water. "We need to keep our strength up," he said quietly. She accepted it silently, her gaze on the horizon. "The fleet pursuing me is larger than you imagine," she said finally. "They control parts of my world and many allied systems. If they catch me, they will stop at nothing. Even you could be in danger." David clenched his fists. "Then we make sure they don't catch us." Lyra studied him, her eyes reflecting a mix of respect and disbelief. "You are unusual. Most humans would panic or flee. You adapt." "You think?" he shrugged. "I don't have a choice. If I protect you, I protect myself too." She said nothing but nodded. The silence was comfortable, filled with mutual understanding and determination. Over the next few days, they moved from planet to planet, hiding from scouts and avoiding heavily patrolled trade routes. David's creativity continued to impress Lyra. Using scrap metal, energy coils, and parts from old mining equipment, he built small defenses around their temporary shelters. He also hacked abandoned satellites to create temporary shields and alerts. Lyra trained him in hand-to-hand combat, weapons handling, and survival tactics. Despite his inexperience, he improved quickly, driven by instinct and the need to survive. One night, while resting in a cavern on a small asteroid, Lyra finally shared more of her story. My family arranged this marriage as part of a political strategy, she said softly. It was meant to secure an alliance, but I did not expect this. She gestured to David, who sat beside her. You are human, fragile yet capable, unpredictable. That makes you valuable in ways my people cannot understand. David looked at her, surprised. I never asked for this. I only wanted companionship. But if it helps you, I'll do whatever I can. Lyra smiled faintly, the first real smile he had seen. I see now that humans are not as weak as others think. Perhaps this alliance is not as one-sided as it seems. Their journey took a dramatic turn when they discovered a hidden base on a deserted moon. Lyra recognized it as one of her enemies' forward outposts. They have spies here, she warned. We can't let them alert the main fleet. David studied the layout, using his human ingenuity to devise a plan. He suggested creating diversions and using the natural terrain for cover. Lyra initially doubted his ideas, but quickly realized they were effective. Over several tense hours, they disabled surveillance devices, sabotaged communication links, and evaded patrols, leaving the enemy unaware of their presence. As they retreated, Lyra admitted, You are clever. Your mind is not bound by convention. That is dangerous to them and useful to me. David grinned. I'll take useful. Eventually, the duo decided they could no longer simply hide. To truly survive, they needed to strike at the heart of Lyra's enemies' operations. Using intelligence gathered from scouts, hidden sensors, and Lyra's knowledge of her enemies' tactics, they identified a key base on a remote asteroid cluster. The base stored critical resources and communications equipment. Destroying it would weaken the enemy fleet significantly. The approach was perilous. The enemy had patrol ships surrounding the cluster, and even a single mistake could alert the entire fleet. David proposed using decoys made from old cargo containers and holographic emitters to confuse the sensors. Lyra hesitated but allowed him to proceed. The attack began at dawn, the suns reflecting off jagged asteroids. David and Lyra moved swiftly, disabling defenses, setting explosives, and using guerrilla tactics that relied on speed, stealth, and ingenuity, rather than sheer strength. When an enemy patrol ship approached, David used a combination of energy nets and electromagnetic pulses to neutralize it, surprising even Lyra with his quick thinking. As the base's central hub was destroyed, alarms blared. Enemy ships began to converge, but the damage was already done. David and Lyra retreated to a nearby asteroid field, using its natural cover to escape. Lyra looked at him, eyes wide with admiration. You are extraordinary. Most humans would have panicked. You turned every disadvantage into an advantage, David shrugged, exhausted but satisfied. I just do what I must. In the days that followed, Lyra and David's bond deepened. Trust, respect, and understanding grew between them. She shared more of her culture, her training, and her world, while David taught her about human ingenuity, resilience, and unpredictability. She realized that humans, often underestimated, could think in ways her people never would, making them uniquely capable allies. The story reached its climax when the enemy fleet finally located their position. A massive battle ensued, with energy beams cutting through space, debris floating between ships, and explosions lighting the void. David and Lyra coordinated their attacks with precision. David used unconventional tactics, predicting the enemy's moves, and turning small ships and abandoned satellites into weapons. Lyra fought alongside him, a perfect complement to his creativity and courage. Despite being outnumbered, they managed to turn the tide. The enemy fleet, unprepared for such unpredictable resistance, suffered heavy losses. Many of the enemy ships retreated, and the survivors sent messages of surrender. David, once an ordinary human on a quiet colony, had become a formidable strategist and fighter. Lyra, witnessing his growth and resilience, knew that no alien could underestimate humans again. After the battle, David and Lyra returned to the quiet asteroid they had used as a base. Lyra looked at David with gratitude and admiration. You have changed everything, she said softly. Not just for me, but for all who would underestimate your kind. Humans, you are remarkable. David smiled, tired but proud. I only did what I had to. We survived together. Lyra reached for his hand, her expression serious. We are more than an arrangement now. We are partners, in life, in battle, in survival. And perhaps, in the future, we will build together. David felt a warmth he had never known. The mail order arrangement that had begun as a simple transaction had transformed into a genuine partnership. The journey had been brutal, full of danger and uncertainty, but it had forged something stronger than either could have imagined. As they looked at the distant stars, both knew the galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but they also knew that together, no force could underestimate humanity again, and with that knowledge they prepared to face the future, side by side, unbroken and ready for whatever came next.